Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're looking at the suggestions which were passed to developers for December 2021 again, and this time it's time to have a look at the helicopter stuff. I was going to do the aircraft stuff today, but after going through all of the articles, there is so much copy and paste stuff, I do not want to go through it yet. It will just be basically me reading websites because it seems like the rules are not being followed anymore when it comes to the suggestions. So we'll have a look at the helicopters today, and then maybe on the weekend we'll have a look at the aircraft. There was also some other news, some data mined decals. Looks like the authentic decals are going to be returning, which is quite nice. And also some other things are also going on. So look to the news for them. I'll make sure to make some videos on them. And let's get into the helicopters. The first helicopter is of an American origin, and it is the Bell AH-1W Super Cobra. And of course, it starts its life as the H-1 Cobra. This was developed in the mid-1960s as an interim gunship for the US Army for use during the Vietnam War. And the Cobra shared the proven transmission, rotor system, and the T-53 turboshaft engine of the UH-1 Huey. By June of 1967, the first H-1G Huey Cobras had been delivered. Bell built 1,116 H-1Gs for the US Army between 1967 and also 1973, and the Cobras chalked up over 1 million operational hours in Vietnam. The US Marine Corps was very interested in the H-1G, but it preferred a twin-engine version for improved safety in over-water operations, and also wanted a more potent turret-mounted weapon. At first, the Department of Defense had balked at providing the Marines with a twin-engine version of the Cobra, in the belief that commonality with the Army H-1Gs outweighed the advantage of a different engine fit. However, the Marines won out and awarded Bell a contract for 49 twin-engine AH-1Js. These were known as Sea Cobras in May of 1968. As an interim measure, the US Army passed on 38 AH-1Gs to the Marines in 1969. The AH-1J also received a more powerful gun turret, and it featured a 3-barreled 20mm XM197 cannon that was based on the 6-barrel M61 Vulcan cannon. An AH-1T Sea Cobra launching from the amphibious assault ship Iwo Jima was also about. The Marine Corps requested greater load-carrying capability and high temperatures for the Cobras in the 1970s. Bell used systems from its Model 309 to develop the H-1T. This version had a lengthened tail boom and fuselage with an upgraded transmission and engines from the 309. Bell designed the H-1T to be more reliable and easier to maintain in the field. This version was given full-tow missile capability with targeting system and other sensors. An advanced version, known as the H-1T Plus, with more powerful T-700 GE-700 engines and advanced avionics, was proposed to Iran in the late 1970s, but the overthrow of the Shah of Iran resulted in the sale being cancelled. Then, after that, the evolution was the H-1W. In the early 1980s, the US Marine Corps sought a new navalized helicopter, but it was denied funding to buy the AH-64 Apache by Congress in 1981. The Marines, in turn, pursued a more powerful version of the AH-1T. Other changes included modified fire control systems to carry and fire AIM-9 Sidewinders and also use the AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. The new version was funded by Congress and received the H-1W designation. Deliveries of AH-1W Super Cobras totaled 179 new-built helicopters, plus 43 upgrades of the AH-1Ts, and the operational service of it began in 1986, with a list of moderate upgrades being incorporated into the fleet of AH-1Ws up until the late 90s. Before initiation of the H-1 program to begin development of what would become its successor, which was of course the AH-1Z Viper. Most of this was straight copy and pasted from another website. And now we go on to some more copy and pasted information. During the Gulf War, 78 Marine Super Cobras were deployed, and flew a total of 1,273 sorties in Iraq with no combat losses. However, 3 AH-1s were lost to accidents during and after the combat operations. The AH-1W units were credited with destroying 97 tanks, 104 armored personnel carriers and vehicles, and 2 anti-aircraft artillery sites during the 100-hour ground campaign. Marine Cobras provided support for the U.S. humanitarian intervention in Somalia during Operation Restore Hope in 1992 to 1993. They were also employed during the U.S. invasion of Haiti in 1994, and the USMC Cobras were used in the U.S. military interventions in the former Yugoslavia in the 90s, and 2 H-1Ws assisted in the rescue of USAF Captain Scott O'Grady after his F-16 was shot down by Assam in June of 1995. And it also links to a hyperlink which doesn't exist, because as I said, this was straight copy and pasted, probably from Wikipedia. The H-1 Cobras continue to operate with the US Marine Corps. USMC Cobras were also used in operations throughout the 1990s, and the USMC Cobras have also served in Operation Enduring Freedom, and in Afghanistan, and in Operation Iraqi Freedom in the conflict in Iraq. While new replacement aircraft were considered as an alternative to major upgrades of the H-1 fleet, Marine Corps studies show that an upgrade was the most affordable, most supportable, and most effective solution for the Marine Corps light attack helicopter mission. During the March 2003 Iraq campaign, 46 of 58 USMC Cobras took battle damage, mostly from infantry-type weapons. On the 19th of September 2011, an AH-1W crashed during training exercises at Camp Pendleton, California, killing the 2 Marine crew members on board. An investigation into the crash determined that it was caused by a bird strike. The aircraft collided with a red-tailed hawk, the impact damaging the pitch change link, which in turn produced vibrations to the rotors so fierce that they caused the transmission and rotors to break off from the helicopter body. And then, in late August 2016, a number of Marine AH-1W Cobras flying from the USS Wasp started flying combat missions over Sirte in Libya against the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant in Libya, providing close air support for friendly militias on the ground. In the later stages of the operation, H-1Ws flew combat missions from the deck of the USS San Antonio after that ship replaced the Wasp in October of 2016. And then in 2017, the last remaining H-1Ws were put into a reserve squadron service, thus being withdrawn from active duty and once and for all. With the H-1Z Vipers being steadily replacing the H-1Ws for a number of years since its official service date in 2010, the H-1W was formally retired in 2018, with the entire USMC attack fleet now being replaced with the H-1Z Viper. The very last remaining H-1W, Super Cobra, flown by Marine Light Attack Training Squadrons, the HMLAT 303, conducted its final flight in the 6th of February 2018, departing from Camp Pendleton and flying to USMC Maintenance and Regeneration Plant. Now, when it comes to the vehicle itself, obviously it could carry a lot of the general ordnance that you would find at many other areas, of helicopters in the game. You're looking at the 20mm M197, which would be quite fun, the 3-barreled Gatling cannon. You've also got 2.75-inch Hydra rockets. You've got some Zuni rockets in there as well. TOW missiles, of course, up to 8 of them. It could also carry the Hellfire missiles. Also the AGM-122 sidearms, the anti-radiation missiles, which we haven't seen yet. Then also the AIM-9 Sidewinders. It could carry AIM-9Ls or AIM-9Ms, which would be pretty fun. The major difference between this and other Cobras, when it comes to most or the majority of them in-game, is its twin-engine setup with 2 General Electric T700 401 turbofashafts. So that would be pretty nice to see. The USSR also get an offering, which is a completely ridiculous vehicle, and not really a helicopter, but it's more of a gyroplane, so it's kind of in the wrong section, but it's still a little bit of fun. And this is the Kamov Tsagi A7 BIS. This vehicle is very, very interesting, I suppose. Basically, it's a hybrid between a plane and a helicopter. The A7 was designed by Nikolai Ilyich Kamov, and it was based on the concept by Juan de la Cierva. The A7 was an aircraft which was built in Russia to fill one of the most important purposes of aircraft at the time, which was basically reconnaissance and a spotter for the adjustment of artillery on the ground. The Kamov gathered a small team together of engineers, which included Mikhail Leontievich Mil, who later became the founder of the leading Russian helicopter builder, who was later to be a direct concurrent to Kamov, and the design was started in 1932 under the supervision of Central Aerohydrodynamic Institute, which was the TSAGI or the TSAGI as it was known. The aircraft was directly inspired by the Cierva C-19, which was a successful design of a similar ideal. The aircraft received the index of A7, just like any gyroplane which was developed under the TSAGI. It started by the letter A, and its role was to be a light artillery scout and spotter, capable to take off and land on extremely small strips of airfield. The A7 first flew on the 20th of September 1934 and was later improved in a second model which was known as the A7 BIS. The gyroplane turned out to be the most successful gyroplane built by TSAGI and was the first armed gyroplane in the world as well. Compared to the other gyroplanes which were around at the time, the A7 was quite big and also heavy, but it did perform as good as any of them. And on the 27th of October 1939, there was an agreement signed between the People's Commissariat of the Aviation Industry and Plant Number 156 of the NKAP to build the A7 in a small series of 5 produced aircraft. This would receive the designation the A73A and saw a short military service and even served in a combat mission. The A7 was originally designed as a formidable armed vehicle, which is why it was so large and heavy. It would have a PV-1 machine gun located in the bow of the vehicle, and a twin installation of DA machine guns was installed in the aft point. And also, initially, the gyroplane was supposed to also have bomb racks on it. But unfortunately, I'm not sure if it did fully, or if it did, it was used in very, very small areas. The takeoff weight of the A7 BIS was 2,246 kilos, and the fuselage itself was 8,430 millimeters long. It had a hydraulic brake, which was introduced into the chassis design, and the A7 BIS was the first ever Soviet gyroplane which was ever used in combat. During the Soviet-Finnish War of 1939 to 1940, it flew 20 missions, piloted basically scouting for artillery, and it was also piloted by Ivanovsky. If the A73A was having a rather improved design with better performance, it also saw production. The A7 BIS was formidably armed and could not only spot the enemy, but also take care of them if it needed to, with its bombs and its machine guns. The A7 BIS was incorporated into Russian service, as well as the A7 and A73A, with the A7 BIS showing good stability in various flight modes, but there was a high engine shaking observed on the vehicle, and it was also equipped with a radio station, which was heavier than the standard one which was used on other vehicles. So generally, this vehicle would have been seen as pretty good, at least completing its role. And on top of the machine guns that we talked about, it could carry 4 100-kilo bombs, or 4 RS-82s, or 2 RS-82s, which could actually be aimed backwards, which would be quite fun. So you wouldn't just be able to fire forwards with the rockets, you would also be able to fire backwards, which I think would be incredibly fun to see. The Japanese also get a helicopter in the form of the Mitsubishi HSS-2A Chidori. This vehicle is an upgrade of the HSS-2s, funnily enough, and the major reason why they decided to upgrade the HSS-2 is because they wanted to be able to land it on destroyers, but unfortunately the HSS-2 was not designed to. So in the third production batch, they would differ from the earlier HSS-2s significantly enough, so it was decided to give it a new designation in the form of the HSS-2As. The engines were upgraded to a pair of Ishikawajima Harima-built T-58 IHI 10M1s. These produced 1,400 SHP each. The helicopters would now also be equipped with the Japanese-produced JHPS-101 search radar, and the batch of the HSS-2As consisted of 28 helicopters in total, with 10 of them which came equipped with the bear trap landing restraint system so they could land on destroyers. The last 5 helicopters of the batch had a minor aerodynamic change, with the new horizontal stabilizer with a brace being introduced, and the HSS-2As would serve in the JMSDF until 1991, being phased out with the introduction of the Mitsubishi SH-60J Seahawk. Now, when it comes to the vehicle itself, when it comes to its armaments, it can only use torpedoes or depth charges. So, yeah, fun. It could use 4 Mark 44 torpedoes, or 4 Mark 46 torpedoes, or 4 Type 67 depth charges. Lovely. Italy also gets another helicopter passed, which is inspired from another country. This is the Augusta Westland AW101. In 1977, the UK Ministry of Defence and Italy's Naval Command were interested in looking to find a suitable replacement for the Sea King. The Sea King had been in service for decades, so an agreement was made, which led both countries to start working together on a new design, which would be a replacement for it. This specifically was a joint venture between Italy's Augusta and the UK's Westland aircraft companies, with both companies who had a great know-how in how to make helicopters. Some of the main features of the helicopter that made it stand out from the rest was that it had a 5-blade main rotor, it had integrated subsystems, and a single pilot full-glass cockpit. Some activities it could carry out if needed are search and rescue, airborne early warning, and marine patrol missions, and it was mainly made to fill a requisite for a medium naval utility helicopter for both of the said nations, although it's more of a utility helicopter instead of an active threat helicopter. That didn't stop it from being able to be armed, mainly suited against anti-ship and also anti-submarine warfare, which is why the AW101 can be equipped with things such as Stingray torpedoes and also Marta anti-ship missiles. For ground targets, it has also been shown to be able to equip both normal 70mm rockets and, according to sources, can also use the FZ-275 LGR, which are laser-guided rockets. It also had a wide range of machine guns that could be attached, which provide extra support if needed. Its first maiden flight was actually in 1987. After several alterations and modifications, the AW101 finally entered service in the year of 2000. And in terms of power plants, the AW101 is powered by 3 turboshaft engines, initially the Rolls-Royce Turbo Mecha, the RTM322, and the General Electric CT7 were the 2 available engine types, but by 2020, the new aircraft were only being sold with the CT7-8E. The RTM322 power plant was specifically designed for the AW101. It can go up to 278 kilometers an hour and has a total range of 926 kilometers. In terms of Italian usage, the first Gruppo and also the third Gruppo have had in service around 22 helicopters and is expected to put more into active service in the following years. And also, 3 AW101s were sent to Afghanistan to aid the ISAF forces, with their main role being to provide medivac and also patrol areas of high importance at night, thanks to the night vision devices on the helicopter itself. So those were the suggestions which were passed to developers for December 2021 for helicopters. Hopefully you enjoyed them. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orangetail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.